Pembroke regarding those tests. So I just want you to read it. And
With
if
this
you have
email?
any feedback,
With this,
that I'm adding,
Sorry, high school committee meeting of Thursday, February 16th is now called to order. Actually, we don't have anything, we don't have a consent agenda tonight. It's actually a special budget meeting. So we'll go right to our student rep, Matt. You can fill us in on what's going on in the middle high school.
Captain.
So I will start with why I wasn't here last week. It was opening night for the play. We basically sold out every night, and actually we sold out Saturday night a week before the play even was starting rehearsals and everything. So very successful, very good feedback. So very fun experience for me, first time for me. So that
And
was
you had a big role.
yeah. I
I mean,
was
you had a big role.
yeah.
He was
Thank
the
you.
captain. The
As
ship's
captain of the ship. And then tomorrow we have a winter sports day. So we do the pep rally for the fall. So we thought we'd do something different this year. And so kids are going to wear either their class T-shirts or blue crew shirts or their jerseys if they're on a sports team. So that'll be fun for a day before vacation. And then net vacation. And then after vacation, we're prepping for the blood drive, which is on Monday, March 6th. So that'll be fun. A lot of kids are already talking about donating, so it'll be very good.
Very nice. Where do they do that, Matt? Do they sit
The small gym, they actually, they do it right in the school, so.
That makes-
do you have to be a certain age?
Oh, March 5th.
You have to be 16 and you have to have parental signed consent, and when you turn 17 and older, you can just donate.
That's great.
So, yeah.
March 5th, you said?
Yeah, just clarify that for the public, because
Yes.
they might, it's Monday.
Yeah, Monday, March 5th.
What time?
All day.
And the
Um,
public can go too.
Yep, public is more than welcome, yes.
Did they give you a little snack at the end of it?
It's gonna be quiet.
Yes.
If he goes. Oh, we still haven't decided.
Good job.
Great, thanks, Matt.
Yes.
All right, next up is the Boosters fundraiser request.
Yes.
Would you like to come?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and accommodating our schedule. I appreciate it.
And being
Thank you
patient
for
because we
giving
had
us-
that mix-up.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us the time to present the proposal to you and get your consideration for it. My name is Evelyn Chickering. I'm the Vice President of the Georgetown Royals All Sports Boosters. Right now, we're trying to hold a Champions Discount Card fundraiser. And, well, let me present what the boosters do. Not everyone knows. The boosters raise money for scholarships, trophies, championship banners, varsity letters, and jackets. And when we have enough money left over, we try to give money to the teams for uniforms and equipment. In recent years, we have not had enough money to do that. And we haven't had very much money for scholarships either. Last year, we raised, I believe, $6,000 thereabouts, but we had expenses of like $8,000 or $9,000. So it's not a viable model that we have right now. Most of our fundraising comes from running the concession stands at the football and basketball events, the games, sorry. And we don't raise enough money to just operate from those funds. What we'd like to do is have this championship discount card fundraiser, which is the best fundraiser I've seen. It gives us 75% net profit back.
It's huge.
Which is amazing. And it's also a fundraiser that we can do every year. It's a discount card that people would buy for $20, and they would be able to get discounts for different restaurants, hotels. Georgetown Eye Associates has a 30% discount on eye exams and glasses. Backstage has a discount. There are numerous local businesses that are on the list for discounts to cardholders, such as the Back Nine Tavern, Therapeutic Massage, Dunkin' Donuts, Dairy Queen, Texas Roadhouse, Giuseppe's, and
All the important ones, I
a
think.
whole bunch.
Dunkin' Donuts alone makes it worthwhile.
And there's also, if you're a T-Mobile subscriber or Sprint, they give you like 10 to 12% discount on your monthly bills.
That's me. That's
So that's a really great
A
deal.
little bit helps, right?
So, and not only do you get discounts for, buying the card, but it's a fundraiser, so you're donating basically $15 to a worthwhile cause, your athletic teams. So you got a tax write-off too. Let's see. With this fundraiser, we would hope to raise money to give the teams money for their uniforms and equipment. So for every car that the team will sell, we would give like $6 or $7 to the team, to set aside for their uniforms. And I know everyone's strapped and everyone's finding it difficult to run fundraisers. And when they do run fundraisers, it's usually a small handful of people that help out. It's very difficult to get everyone involved. With this fundraiser, we would like to get as many athletes as possible involved. And we're not asking for much. We're only asking for them to sell maybe 3 to 5 cards, or as many as they can. But we're not requiring anything from them. But we believe that this is a very good, worthwhile endeavor. And we hope that you will approve it. Are there any questions?
So one of the things we've been trying to do now for a couple of years, at least it's been a goal of mine, it's been tough. It's kind of like herding cats a little bit. But, there's so many great groups that want to raise funds for specific purposes, and we are, immensely grateful for that. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is to try to streamline the efforts so that each fundraising group, A, doesn't duplicate the same kind of fundraising, and B, have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 at the most major things that they do, so that we're not, the poor customer at the bottom of the process ends up being inundated with so many things that it's almost like an extra tax on the people, right? Because everybody does want to support. These are all great causes. So one of the things, I know the senior celebration does a kind of a card fundraiser. It's a little different than this, and I did ask Laura to speak with Evelyn, and you assured me that it's not the same kind of fundraiser. But I'd love to, if we could do this right, I'd love to see the sports boosters every year, that's their fundraiser. So other organizations aren't necessarily doing that. Just like the GEF has the gala and the PTA has the fashion show, and just so we can try to at some point get it into something that's a little bit more of a reasonable process for, as I said, for the people who are constantly being asked to give and give and give. So I told Evelyn that I thought this was a good thing because it's different than what many of the other organizations are doing, and it does look like they can make some pretty good money, which they very much need.
Yeah.
So I urge you to to support this.
Rob, any questions? And Barbara?
Nope.
All right. So I think we're all set. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the Georgetown Royals All Sports Boosters fundraiser as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good luck.
No, motion carries.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much for pulling it all together.
Thank you very much for
It means a
approving
lot
it.
to everyone.
It's a lot of work.
It is. And thankless work.
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. So we have a quiet house tonight. Does that mean people aren't quite as interested in our
I'm not
budget
sure.
as other issues that are?
Sure.
It's a shock, I know.
All right.
Well, the principals are here if there's any questions for
And we
them.
appreciate you being here. Administrative reports, or should we just, we don't have any, we'll just move right into the
Yeah,
budget?
no, I think the
Okay.
budget is our agenda tonight.
We're gonna pick up where we, I think probably the best thing to do is pick up where we left off last week, and then entertain questions about things that came up that we talked about last week.
Or questions you would need further research.
Or, right, library services with a whopping 0.86% increase.
Just for the benefit of the people who are watching, if they didn't watch last night, the last meeting, you just want to give a recap of what we've done so far? Only takes 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm just kidding.
Are you
It was on
asking to
TV
do
a whole
that?
bunch of times.
I was gonna
So
say,
maybe
it was
he-
televised.
Like a
and we
bunch of
should-
times.
We nearly had a packed house.
A
Well,
bunch of times?
No, they all left
You
before
gotta-
we talked about it.
I saw it a few
I think
times.
so it's up to you. I mean, he's
Yeah.
offering to do a 2-minute
Do you wanna do a
drive-by.
2-minute?
Drive.
I'll do a
Overview.
30-second.
30 seconds, that's even
overview.
better.
of where we were and where we're
This is for the
headed.
benefit of the principals who are sitting here tonight in front of us again with, trying to live with a budget that is very difficult. When we put the budget together initially, the principals asked for $821,000 additional funding to run their programs and their schools and athletics and everything else that goes with it. And we understood that was not sustainable, so Carol and I, through the subcommittee of school committee, whittled it down to 3.5%. So we're down tonight to an increase of $446,000 as opposed to $821,000. So it's difficult, and I know the principals have met with us several times, and they find it hard to understand how they can run their programs with such a dramatic cut. But knowing that the economy is very tight, the taxes are high, there's no support for commercial real estate in this town, so it all comes on the homeowners. And so the principals are realists and they understand. And I know that they feel badly about that, but that's the best we can do. So at this point, through the chair, we're at 3.5%, starting off with library services tonight.
Right.
The only increase, by the way, through the chair is contractual obligations for paraprofessionals and clerical. $1,174 overall.
Which means we're not buying any more books, any more
Nope,
media supplies.
everything is level funded.
There were requests for that, but when the principals were asked to pare down their request and level fund, that's where we got to.
Page 7 on textbooks, I think you'll notice that
Good Lord.
if you look at the explanation down below, the principals did ask for $20,597 over what they had last year. And again, going through the budget process, we had to level fund textbooks at last year's rate. That significantly impacted the middle school and also the Pembroke, and somewhat at the high school. But we cut $20,000 out of the textbook account to bring it to level funding.
So we're spending a whopping $88,000 across 1,700
Exactly.
students for
Yeah.
textbooks next year.
That's
Well,
not
these are
much.
these are new, obviously.
So,
you know.
but will that cover the cost of the workbooks with the math programs and those types and the vocabulary?
What the textbooks are in elementary, at least at Pearlie.
It's
The
level
textbooks
funded.
are the consumables
Not
for
cut, level funded.
foundations and
Right.
math.
But I'm just asking if that level funding
Does
will
that-
cover the cost of all the new math textbooks that
Well,
see, now
workbooks.
workbooks.
What the job they're gonna have to do is with the money they get is distribute the money
Right.
for the consumables first before they buy the hardcover. And,
But her question is, with the consumables that we have to buy for the new programs that we have at Pearlie and Pembroke, does
Level funding covers that.
30,000 cover that?
ask them.
I plan on ordering the same number as last year, so that's what it's exactly.
Now, Brian, you had a big increase in yours. You were up over 10,000 just for your school. Can you tell the committee what you had to cut by not getting that extra 10,000, what you won't buy?
Sixth grade math books, which would have been new this year.
Okay.
Would it have been a new
And social
program?
studies,
Yeah.
A new math program?
Well, yeah, would have been a new text,
new
right?
text.
New text, okay.
Brian, people might ask you about the seventh. I think it's a little bit of a dilemma with the 7th grade classes, right?
In regards to,
Textbooks. So like,
Don't have
right?
enough.
I mean, they're probably not going to have enough.
right,
So
yeah, because they have an increased number going on.
right. So that'll be a priority in the
Exactly.
books that are
Right,
purchased.
To make sure that all the 7th grade students, there's an extra 30 going up,
Right.
or 28 going up, that they all have enough textbooks to cover the basics.
I'm always
I'm
worried
just-
about the copyright, whether you can get the books.
Right.
That's always a challenge.
I'm just curious,
I
Brian,
have all the sixth
the
grade books.
year, what's the current
order.
year of the 6th grade math
You
books?
buy them.
Do you know?
I bought 'em all.
I'm just curious.
What was that?
The year
Oh,
of those
Yeah.
books.
That's what I was saying, because sometimes Peter has found that, that they
They're
go
so
to
old.
order, yeah, and
the
they
grade
can't
6
get
is
them.
still available online through Amazon.
Yep, or Barnes and
Yeah,
Noble.
because you
Well,
bought
yeah,
it, yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
bought an extra set.
And I mean, obviously, part of our goal is to, start get going in the direction of the electronic textbooks. There's also a lot of applications if we ever get to a place where, we can have everybody, plugged into Apples or iPads or any of those. But you know, right now, we're still transitioning to that point, because we don't have the up-to-date technology to make that happen.
Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example of what Carol was saying. Currently, we have 4 versions of our physics books, and we were gonna buy a new set of those, and I don't know that we're gonna be able to do that.
Because they're out of date.
Yeah, they're so old and you can't get the new ones. It's very difficult on the teacher to try
So,
To try to
So
manage
would-
4 programs at
what
the
would
same
be-
time.
is the solution to that for you to buy the latest version of the physics textbook?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you, just out of curiosity, what kind of cost are you looking at for
I
something?
think around 6,000 for that.
Okay, and that would give everyone who is taking physics the latest.
75 new physics books and all of the materials that come with it, an online component.
Not a new program, but just the latest version of the existing text that we're using.
Yes.
So just so we're aware, these are the things that, I mean, for $6,000 that we're not able to fund.
And no one's here to hear it.
Wow.
I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, if we were in a position with school choice, that's the kind of thing where every year you could say, we're gonna designate $15,000 to spend on textbooks. It's a one-time purchase, you know, the following year, you know, you have a need for something else. And again, I'm not saying we won't get there, because we haven't had that conversation. But, you know, it is one of those things where, you know, if those are priorities that aren't in the budget, there is another funding source potentially, you know, obviously on a priority basis. Or we could determine what, you know, and we need to get on a multi-year plan for that. So we're not every year saying, oh, this year we'll do physics. You know, we really need to, we do actually have a 3-year plan for curriculum renewal. And we really need to, as we're looking at those curricula, along with the maps and other things we're developing, we just need to get used to recommending the textbooks on an annual basis.
And and the discussion we're having here doesn't relate to new programs. It's just buying an up-to-date text or increasing the number of available text for those
Yeah.
larger classes that are coming through.
Yeah, I think Brian had some requests for some new as well, but that's something else we'll consider.
There aren't many people here, but I know there are people that watch,
Yes.
and I just I don't know what the word is, but the idea of being in school with textbooks that are so old that you no longer can replace them, even if we had the money to replace them, is sad. And I know there's a lot of budget issues, but that kind of sums it all up, I think, pretty well. I just want to say that.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe,
Absolutely.
Peter, maybe what we could do to help, like, inform this discussion a little bit more at another date would be to list the textbooks, you know, basically the subjects, the classes, list the textbook and the date.
And the date.
So
Yeah,
we
the
can
date.
see just how old some of them are, because maybe some of them, because we have done some purchasing of textbooks along the way, maybe some are not quite as old as we think.
Right.
It'd be
Done
good to
some
have
new
some
math.
data, yeah,
Done some new
to
math
take a
over the
look at.
past 4 or
Just
5 years.
conduct kind of an inventory of that, maybe. both
Right,
in
and I
high school.
think
That'd be great.
the issue isn't that all of our textbooks are old.
Right.
Or that, you know, they're not, that they all don't need to be replaced, but the idea that we're sitting here talking about a physics program that's using several different versions of a textbook, and the remedy would be to provide a new up-to-date textbook for $6,000, and something that we really can't fund right now.
Right.
Is to Rob's point.
And a lot of our instructional improvements don't always require a textbook. Sometimes the textbook isn't, you know, the only way to
Right.
get at it. And it would be nice to, and I know we're working toward this, is, you know, for example, in some classes, you know, like you would do if you went to college, you know, you'd go to the bookstore, and for a class you might have 3 small books that you need to be prepared to read and, you know, do activities around. Everything doesn't always have to be a text. You know, I know it provides good background, but they are, I don't know, Peter, what's an average textbook? I know it varies, but
About $80.
about $80 a textbook. You know, and if we can do online things and other instructional materials aren't quite as expensive, we might be able to get a better value for
A
our
lot of the
bang
used
for our
books
buck.
are more than $80
A
even.
lot of the used books?
Yeah,
I think, really.
yeah.
Mhm.
I had to buy one this year that was $120.
One of our textbooks?
Mhm.
Oh, Okay.
They may have marked it up at Amazon
May have.
or
Yeah,
wherever.
but that's sort of surprising.
It's not. It's in great shape.
Oh, well, it's probably brand new. Okay.
One way to figure it, a rule of thumb is if you have a class of 200, it's about $15,000 per subject per grade,
Okay.
on average.
For a new series.
Okay,
That's good to know. Okay.
good to know. Moving along to guidance.
The only thing in there through the chair is the small amounts you see in the salary account for increases are people moving across the salary lanes or getting additional degrees. The clerical, obviously, is the new contract that's going to be in existence next year. The rest of it, the contracted services, the supplies, are, as you can see, virtually level funded. So that the guidance services budget is going up 2.6%, $10,000 increase, and again, it's mostly contractual.
What did we do with Pearly testing?
Well, again, this is one of those things through the chair that this was in the budget for this year, and I didn't see a request for next year, but you'll notice even though it's not there, if Pearly testing is needed through the guidance department, it'll be provided through some source. But
Okay.
the budget is up $1,400.
Do you want, Margaret, what would you spend out of the Pearly testing
Testing.
line?
We buy pre-K and kindergarten screening
Okay.
materials.
Yeah.
Sometimes if we need additional, for maybe special education, they come out of the testing.
Okay, thank you.
The health services budget simply covers the nurses and the contractual services for your physician services,
Yep.
nursing supplies by various schools. It's actually down $176 from last year.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
There's no
Gone
um,
through this before.
problem with the increased amount of responsibility we're putting on the
Suggested.
nurse regarding the
You
concussion.
can see how.
I mean, do we have everything?
When we met with Mary Beth from the high school, she didn't feel, I mean, certainly she knows she has more of a role, but she didn't indicate that she thought that was going to be more than she felt she could handle in the course of her responsibilities.
I just meant, is there there's nothing in this that would add to, the
Administration.
well, not
or-
even administration, but just the physical test that she has to, make sure that she provides for the kids.
No, because remember, they talked about that test and the trainer would do it, and it really, her job, the changes in her job, as I remember from the change in responsibilities, were more clerical in the
Clerical.
sense that, she would be responsible for notifying people. She'd be the liaison to the physician.
So she doesn't have to do
Yeah,
anything
I
other than
didn't
that.
think it was
Okay.
anything more than that, but it is an additional responsibility for her, no doubt about it.
Well, I just didn't know if there was anything, extra that we had to purchase for her.
No,
for
I don't
that.
believe so.
All right.
How do you go down from your, oh, that's 13, excuse me.
Yeah.
So,
Transportation?
Oh, let's talk.
Just to bring you up to date. Well, first of all, the transportation account is up $16,000 from last year. And one of the increases, half of the $16,000 increase is for the transportation of homeless students. And I've given you an explanation of that at the bottom of the page. Under the McKinney-Vento Act, we have to transport students to the school where they were last located prior to moving to their foster home. So we need to have $7,672 for those students. There's only two at this point in time. The other part of the increase is for a new school bus contract. And the last sentence of my explanation is efforts are underway to extend the current contract for another couple of years with a minimum increase. And First Student has agreed to do that. Now, what we have to do as a school department is go to town meeting and ask town meeting members to extend the contract with First Student for 2 more years. It's in the contract.
Because we have a 3-year, and anything
You
more
have
than
a
3
2-year
years has to
extension,
go.
yes. And
So we
In
need a
talking-
warrant article about that then.
Okay.
yeah, this,
That-
in my opinion, is a good
It needs to happen
thing
soon.
to do.
Right. So last night, I forgot what night.
It was last night.
Yeah, okay, last night. We were hearing from David Surface that the warrant is actually closing. I thought he said at their next meeting, which is in 2 weeks.
That is correct.
So this would be something that we would want to, so Jim, who would put together the warrant language for that? I guess that's the question.
Let me pull the contract and
Okay.
have that contract language dictate how we're going to do the warrant, okay?
Okay, so we would just need to put that on our radar screen that we
Yes.
have to, and so I'm happy to put on my notes here to email David and say we would like a placeholder
Yes.
for it, but then we would forward the language.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can email them and say, you know, we're gonna have, at least put it on for now, and then we'll get the exact.
Okay.
So just to reiterate, the number that I have in the FY13 budget for will cover the contract extension,
Okay,
okay? Which is good news.
great news. Oh.
Athletics.
And we will look at the number of buses carefully.
Yeah. The athletic budget has been recast this year. I know there was a question about why it was done that way. In FY12, if you look at the FY12 column, you'll see the makeup of the $67,500. It was really the trainer, the contract transportation, telephones, trainer supplies and dues, and some equipment for $67,500. If you looked at this year's budget that was given to us by the athletic director at one of our subcommittee meetings, he did in fact break out the athletic director, the clerical, the trainer, the rental lease, telephones, and so on and so forth. So we came up with $67,500 again, just recast in a different fashion. The other difference between what is actually needed for athletics versus what's in the budget has to come from user fees. And we talked about that a little bit last week with the student rep. And I just hope it's doable because you need $312,000 to run the athletic department, and $67,000 is coming out of the school budget. The rest of it has to come out of athletic user fees, so.
Well, didn't we have 33 coming out of choice?
Yeah,
for athletics,
choice
and
was
then you were
fun some
going
of it,
to
yeah.
add another,
Well, that was the problem, that's the discussion we had in
Yeah.
subcommittee,
Yeah.
is if we found 50 somewhere, we have to determine where that
Right.
is. But if we had 50, and then there was discussion about increasing user fees, I think the initial conversation was by $25, but then it sort of morphed into $50 would get us there. It doesn't give us much wiggle room, and I put in my notes here that I wanna email Chris DeFranco just to see if there's any possibility. Remember Cam suggested the idea of reducing the buses by having, the teams travel on way. So I think that's worth discussing, because that could reduce that athletic user fee, that athletic budget a little bit.
And your buses are running $46,000.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yep, okay.
So Ann, I'm just curious, like, so here we are, right? I don't think that this won't fund the athletics next year, as it
Correct.
is. So at what point would we wanna discuss, unfortunately, the conversation we don't wanna have about any increase in user fees?
Now. Yeah, I think now we have to determine now whether we're gonna increase user fees.
Okay.
And then I think the next part of that conversation is to sit down with Chris DeFranco and determine what our budget is gonna look like next year. It may include, we may get to the point where we're just gonna have to, cut, make certain cuts in sports. Not that we wanna do that, but I don't know that there's much of an appetite to do a huge user fee increase after we got an override last year. To specifically reduce user fees.
Just for clarification, so the number we're trying to hit is the 336, is that correct? That we're trying to make up the difference to?
Well, total expenses including, right in the middle of the page, Rob, is a $312,000 number. You're looking at the same sheet that I am? Yeah, look
Yeah.
right in the middle of
I
the
don't have
page.
that sheet.
Yeah, I don't have that in mine either.
Oh, yeah.
Total
Yeah.
expenses?
No, it was handed
It
out
was
separately.
from-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
To put it in.
So that's where I
FinCom.
referenced
Okay.
that
Is that the amount,
312. That's
312?
what the cost. Now,
312.
obviously, there are deducts from that 312, as we talked about, the choice, the user fees and so on and so forth. So you can whittle away at that, and
Still.
plus 67,000 from the budget.
Right, okay.
We'll get you to somewhere, but it's a hard number. I think $25 generates, what, $13,500?
13, so we said
Yeah.
13.
So $50 will give you 26.
Well,
No, the-
what did
So
we say?
25 will
So let's
generate
just-
what, an
or
increase
seventy-
of
$25
25?
will generate 13,500.
Okay, an
Can we
increase
just
of
hold-
$25 will increase 13.5.
Yes.
33 from choice.
That's the number you had, Bobby, right?
Yep.
13 equals.
So, we just had something we're trying to understand here. If we have transportation, when I look at FY12 budget is 67.5. It's the same in FY13.
Yes.
But we haven't funded transportation, but we have funded an athletic director and a clerk, which I know exist now. Where are those being, where are those being funded from this year? And where, from the budget?
From the budget.
So then
Where's the
next,
transportation?
so then next year
Athletic
is,
revolving.
Revolving, yeah.
but it was on the budget this year.
In the budget
That's what
this
I'm
year
trying to-
was, yeah, $34,000 was in the budget.
Okay.
Okay,
Transportation, yeah.
so next
Yeah.
year it's gonna be on athletic.
Right, now,
revolving.
if you look at the athletic director's budget.
No,
it's
he's
not-
got it in the budget here.
No,
No,
he
it's
doesn't.
negated.
Oh, he
Gated.
doesn't,
Yeah.
right, he doesn't. Okay.
Carol,
I'm sorry,
so
Jim.
here's what the AD gave us.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
It's AD, the
right,
trainer
okay,
supply.
so transportation's going to come out of
Out of
the revolving
revolving,
account?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of what you have available for funding though, right now, you have 33 from choice, you have 67.5, right, from the budget, and then
User fees.
User-
13.5.
what do we say for user? fee?
Well.
13.5 if you do
$13.5 is a
$25.
$25 increase, but you have to look over
Yeah, we
here.
have to look, right, exactly, so he doesn't generate.
No,
Yeah, there's a column here that says
160.
user fee, so 160.
What's
from user-
160?
What's user fees?
160,000?
Yeah, based on the number we're talking about here. So you got 10, 16, 260, basically, $260,000. And you
the
need,
goal is
You
312.
need
312.
312.
So another 50.
It's the 50 again.
that's the
There you
50.
go, yeah.
Now, Ann, if you
Now, it's-
started thinking about cutting down,
but we
cutting
didn't-
sports, how would
we
you
didn't add.
do that?
That's-
Like, do we
that's
look,
an
Catch
increase
22.
in-
It's-
If
yeah.
we cut the sports, we lose the user fees.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it before, but, you know, I don't know.
But what would we do? Like, would we look at the ones that are least
No.
less popular?
have to
Do
look
we
at the
look at
ones-
the ones that are expensive?
The first one would probably, the first
guess that's
way
not
that we would probably do it is look at the ones that cost us the most.
Which is basketball and football, is it not?
And lacrosse.
Wrestling, but wrestling's a co-op, so that might be different
Right, and then would have to look at where
levels.
the
You
level,
wouldn't cut basketball, but you'd probably get rid of middle school and-
Okay.
and freshmen.
right, and you'd have to look at the,
Yeah, we'd have to lay that all out to be sure, yep.
yeah, you'd have to look at the participation levels, and then would have to be, careful with the girls' sports that we don't get into a Title IX
Right,
issue.
exactly.
So it wouldn't be as clear cut as, okay, pick up
Yeah.
the thing and go through it, would have to. And the other thing that we're faced with, which, is hard for people to believe, but our participation rates have fallen steadily every year.
Right.
And cutting the
almost-
fees this
And
year
cutting
didn't
the fee-
increase the users.
The amount of,
Yeah.
No, and you do have that big class in sixth grade that I think will try, but it's still the same number of, it's still the same number of athletes basically
Yeah,
in the sports, because
it's-
your roster sizes are such.
Right.
So if you're short, you know, the 50, then you have a choice. You either find 50 somewhere, or you do it all in user fees, which would make your user fees go up $100, or you do a combination. You say, we're gonna do $50
User
extra
fee.
in user fee, and then we find 25 somewhere else.
Do we have time to, it's a silly question maybe, do we have time to find out from the public what they want to do?
In
In terms
what
of,
way, Rob?
well, giving us some feedback? We don't have time, but getting feedback
What-
from the
what
town
would
as
that
to what
look like?
sport. Having the public recognize the ones that are involved with the user fees, letting them let us know what they think, you know? Yes, we're okay going up, we're not okay going up. Cut us, the people involved in it
Yeah.
somehow.
but how would we ask them?
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
to-
that's what I'm trying to get to the next. How,
Like, do we,
how do we
um,
ask and how do we get back?
just
and
say,
then how do
send
we
us
measure?
emails? I mean, like, do we say it like now, send us email? Yeah,
I don't, it would be hard to do it, I think, and to get in touch with everybody. I
If they
don't
feel
know.
strongly, they should,
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
should.
And this is
It's
why
definitely
this
a
is why we
passionate
review
issue,
the,
but-
the budget in public.
I know,
More
Yeah.
passionate,
I know.
yeah.
But
Oh,
I,
yeah.
but
I
I
know.
think one of the things you got, in terms of timing, I think that's what your question was, Rob, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna hold a public hearing, which people who have strong feelings about that certainly could come to the public hearing. You're having
But
that
we're
6:30
talking
on
about
Monday.
the user fees don't impact.
Well, they
budget.
would affect the athletic budget, sure they would in some, you know, when they're not, the bottom line is the bottom line, right? So if we can't fund our athletic program, we're gonna, and we say we're gonna fully fund the athletic program, we have to cut something else. Because the bottom line is the bottom line. I mean, yeah, you're right, and we could go to Choice, we could go to whatever, we don't have a lot of places to go, because I still am worried about Choice, because we seem to be relying on that a lot more than I'm comfortable on for next year, but, I understand why we're doing it. But you have to have a bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, if we don't wanna do anything else in the budget, then you're right, you could just approve this as it is, and we could continue to talk about it.
I don't see any more money coming out of the budget for this.
No. Just one point of clarification.
No,
What
it's
is
gotta
our
go
number that we're trying to tie, balance to?
312.
312.
That's from what we have here, yeah, based on what the,
That's from
Well, that's what Chris said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because I'm coming up with a little different number. I'm not sure why. I'm coming up with 274. Out of what we just talked about, 33,000 from Choice, 67.5 from the budget,
And once-
13.5.
Oh, I'm
616.
saying, what Jim was saying is, you have 33 from Choice, you have the
Yeah.
budget, and you have 160 in, as if you haven't increased the user fees
Right,
yet.
no,
At the
but-
current user fee.
Right. So I have 33 from Choice, 67.5 from the budget,
I could've-
13.5 with a
With
$25 user fee increase.
Okay,
I have 160 in user fees.
yeah,
I get to 274.
yeah, you will.
that would be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's 260 if you don't do anything,
Right.
and that's where our 50 is coming from.
So the difference is 26
Close enough.
Right.
and 12, 38,000.
That's what we're in need of, with
That's
the
what we need,
$25
30, yeah.
increase.
With
No,
increasing
that's with 25.
That's
That's
that-
with 25.
That
With the
includes
$50 increase, you said it got to what?
13.5.
No, that's 25.
That would get us down to
Oh,
25,000.
left, okay.
Yeah, left. So pretty much what we would
About
need is a
40,000.
75,000. Would need a $75 increase over the 25 to balance it.
So a $100 increase.
Yeah, exactly. If
A
every
$100
20
increase.
Unless you find the 50s, part of the 50 somewhere else.
right.
And that's so difficult with the override. We had
Yeah.
1 year of,
It's very
The
difficult.
problem I have with the user fees is that there are some families that can afford it and there are some that can't, and
Right.
that's not okay.
No,
Yeah, we agree.
that's right. It's a parent tax.
Yeah.
It is.
We agree.
Another.
And I guess what's fair in that regard is if, at some point, if some people can't afford it that way, then the fair thing to do, well, I was gonna say is you gotta cut.
Well,
Well, there
and
is
we-
a, there,
we
they
can look-
do use the, free and reduced lunch.
As a barometer.
As a barometer for kids for families. So if they are receiving free or reduced lunch, then that, whatever the percentage is,
Remember
applied to
about
the
what that
user fees.
percentage
I didn't know that.
Yep, they do that.
It's a low
It's
percent.
actually
It's
a low
very low.
percentage.
When
Yeah.
the, when the fees were $4.50, it was.
I think it affected 21 students or something.
But
I
the
think
thing
I
that-
remember that number.
If you look at your sheet, it'll show you what our participation rate was this year, and that was with 100 plus
savings.
decrease
Decrease.
in user fees. And I think
125.
you'll find that our number of athletes actually declined again this year.
I mean, we used to have, I think it was 600. We always said that was
That's a
sort of the
very
number, and
interesting
now it's at 540.
I know, do we have any idea why? Like what,
I think we were using the 600 number when that was a peak number. And we had a lot, we had 2 middle school soccer teams, and we had a lot of, it was in the middle school. And we had a lot of middle school field hockey players.
Mhm.
And it was one particular year, and we kept using that number. That was a good number.
Of course, it was high. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh, was that when you had the two teams and they alternated weeks and games?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember that. That didn't go over well either, though,
No.
parents.
no, because they're paying the user fee and they're paying half,
Yeah.
they're paying half of the
But
season.
the rosters, the high school rosters are pretty much stable, and most of them have fixed rosters.
Football was down this year.
Football is down, that is one factor.
It was down like 20 participants.
Do you know
Field
how much
hockey,
freshman
field
football
hockey was
costs?
down too.
I don't have that sheet with me. Is the football divided up into freshmen and
It
varsity, or is it just
just
football?
says
No, it's all together.
I think
We
basketball's
can,
our most expensive sport.
yeah.
Which?
What is?
Basketball.
Basketball.
Lacrosse is also expensive, if I recall.
Basketball's you.
Numbers are down in lacrosse too, and they have been. When we started the program, they were really peak numbers, and after a couple of years, they went way down, and they've been down.
I met the lacrosse coach that we're hiring, before we hired him. And I actually think he'll do a nice job, and I think he'll motivate a lot of kids that might be on the fence about it, come out for the sport. You know, I've been impressed with some of the new coaches that have been coming in to meet with me. So hopefully that's gonna help as well, that, you know, cause a lot of times kids go out because they like to play for the coach.
The boys and girls lacrosse is together the number, and that's 22,000, which if you break it in half, I don't know, is 11, and baseball's 11, and softball's 11, and it starts falling in that range.
Basketball's the high one.
Basketball's
basketball's the high
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
You know,
each boy,
cross
17
countries,
for
you know,
girls.
increased, you know, I think wrestling over the years has increased. I mean, so those are all good signs.
So at the end of the, right now we're 38,000 short with the $25 user fee increase, excuse me.
And through the chair, originally, the budget increase that we were asking for, the 800,000, had 46,000 additional dollars for athletics, which we had to take out.
Which would have
That would,
balanced.
that would have balanced it.
Which would balance us. All right, I know how to pack the room next time. So our choice is to just go with what we have right now. We'll do a $25 user fee increase, or well, I think if we're gonna have to do the $25 user fee increase. That is just gonna get us within striking distance of balancing the $38,000 shortfall. Then I think for budget and finance, we're gonna have to go through the sports and really come up with a recommendation of how to balance it. Whether it's a combination of lowering our transportation costs, like Cam had said at our last meeting, maybe doing freshman, JV and varsity all on the same bus to go to events as opposed to freshmen on one bus, JV and varsity on another.
Yeah, what I
know
really,
that's the case.
That is an athletically unsound.
I guess that was,
well,
you know,
I guess what I'd like to recommend is that maybe, you know, that it be, instead of the school committee necessarily making that decision as to what should be cut, we should ask the school to, if we want some guidance that we want to offer, and then let the school get together and come up with a series of proposals
yeah, I don't
for
think
you.
our idea was that we would go through and slash it, but I think
Okay.
we would sit there and figure out where, you know, what we're looking at and what.
Well, we'd love your participation in that, but I'd like the school to have the opportunity to look at it, because they'll understand the Title IX balances and, you know,
But I
the
think
nuances
we just
of
need to
it.
give the guidance of here's where we are.
Well, you
and
say we need
how are we-
$38,000, you know, how are we gonna, you know,
Right.
is there any way we can get any money out of it?
38,000.
It has to
It would
has to
be
done
really.
tomorrow, Peter, because you're going away next week.
No. You have a laptop you can take with you.
When do you need the answer?
Peter, as far as the, you had just said athletically, you don't see that happening. Is that because of the time? Like the JV or the freshman starts at 3:30 or something, and then?
Yeah, you're keeping, you're keeping athletes out till 9:30 at night from, that are gonna leave the school at 2:30,
Okay.
Well,
all of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless they get picked up by parents.
But I think that just begs for a disaster to start happening. You know, with parents
Oh, yeah,
taking
it's
kids
crazy.
and
Yeah, there's liability
There's
issues.
liability.
yeah.
And if it was me as a parent, I don't wanna speak for any parent, but I'd rather pay the 25, it's gonna cost me way more than that in gas.
Yeah, to go to Rockport or
Yeah,
Gloucester.
I go pick-
And driving everybody home.
that's an interesting idea
Right.
too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, one of the things is maybe we assess the transportation fee.
I think we talked about that, didn't
Yeah,
we?
that
Say
was
that,
something
like
that
it's you know, increase the user
Yeah.
fee, but also a transportation cost.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the
Yeah,
budget.
and then what, maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't get up to 50, but it gets a little more than 25.
So I guess right now we're short 38,000. If we could get a little bit above that, because every year we're having this discussion of we're short.
So, did you wanna vote on increasing user fees now?
Yeah, we might as well take the first pass at voting on a $25 increase in user fees. If we have to increase beyond that, we just take a separate vote, right?
We would, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think we're gonna have to.
I don't. We've gone back and forth on this. We
We'll
actually
at least have to do the 25.
the 25 to start.
If you do this at 25, you still have to get to the 38.
We still need
Right.
38.
It's still short
Each
there.
$25 increase in user fees gets us $13,500.
So $100 increase would
would
get us
cover
where we
us.
want, but I think that would be,
That won't.
I thought each increase of $25 got us 16.
13.5.
13.5.
13.5.
So I think Peter had a question, like, when would he need this? I mean, the
I said
27th.
Monday.
You really mean Monday? Because the other option is that the first meeting in March, which is the which is the 8th or something.
I think if we could have a discussion on the 8th.
Okay, March
would be
8th,
best.
Peter.
So you do not want one of the proposals to be an increase in user fee, right? So
20.
you're looking
They've already
for-
increased it.
They haven't voted.
Well, we haven't voted yet, but
Well,
They're
they're looking at that.
$25 increase.
Just
But
a second, I have to check
The first
my name.
proposal from the athletic department is gonna be increase the user fee to cover it, but if you're telling me that's not an option, you wanna see how we can cut to get to that number.
Come up with 38,000.
in cuts.
That's my take, based
I
on the
think that's what
25.
they'd like to see, what that could look like. They may
It
look
doesn't
at
mean we're gonna
they may-
do
they-
that.
All right, they may look at it and say, absolutely not, we're not doing that, and we gotta find 38,000 somewhere else, but
It's your recommendation.
it's based on,
The
just take a
recommendation
pass
from
at it.
the AV and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would include middle and high school sports.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had mentioned a transportation fee. You know, I'd really like not to go above our $25 user fee increase, but I do understand that just might not be viable. But we can't come back with a $100 increase.
Right, but if you were to see what the possible cuts might be, and they weren't cuts that we could support, then you could consider transportation fee if that was the option
Right.
that you wanted to
Or
go with.
another 25
Yeah,
Yep.
incremental. Torture them the way that we used to do it.
Right.
instead of all at once, right?
And I guess the message to the public is we're looking to save $38,000. So if anyone has an idea out there,
Right.
please let us know.
That's realistic.
That makes sense for all athletes.
Yeah, great. I mean, ultimately, in some places, like a booster organization, as Evelyn said, a booster organization would make enough money so that they'd be able to just give a certain percentage to the athletic department, and that can be used often to offset athletic expenses. But we're not in that position, as she commented, so.
This is just a question. Okay, you got it, it's just a question.
Oh boy.
Are you worried about being attacked?
Has anybody ever talked about major cuts in sports with programs in this town?
Did you see how packed the room was last week?
Yeah,
It will be twice as packed.
yeah.
Yeah, and we need, it's unfortunate
I'm just-
something, yes, absolutely.
Honestly, Rob, when I first came here, the first summer I was here,
Yeah.
I think there used to be money in the budget, and then the override,
Failed.
it failed, and it was 100%, user fee. And there was a lot of concern and worry about that. That was difficult, but the argument was, but we're cutting all these other things, this is a pay per, there were some people who felt it was a kind of a privilege to be able to be part of it. That's not my philosophy. My philosophy is everybody should be able to play athletics if they want, because it's part of a child's education. But, I totally understand that, it comes down at the end of the day to money. But most places, and Jim, I think would back this up, most places have at least half of the cost of your athletic budget, your program in your budget. It's rare that you have such a minimal
And
amount.
I don't know if you remember
But-
last
It's
year,
not a suggestion by any
No.
stretch.
the, last year when the woman from NEASC was here at one of our meetings, she was very emphatic about the idea of extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And she called them co-curricular,
She
if I
did.
remember.
That's- she did,
She
Ann.
said they're not extra.
That's an
They're
appropriate
not
term.
extra.
She
That's
said
what
they're
she
not
said.
extra,
I
and
agree.
the idea that
I
you're
agree.
balancing it on the backs of the families is probably not fair to a great many.
No, you're right, Dan.
Families.
That's a great summary. That's exactly what she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
so we're gonna take a vote on that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Thank you very much. The chair will entertain a motion to increase sports user fees by $25 for the school year beginning in the fall of 2012 to 2013.
So moved.
Any further discussion?
You don't have a second yet.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
I thought I did. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Operations and maintenance, building and grounds.
There really is no significant increase in the operations and maintenance department. One of the things that I do want to point out to you is that we do have a maintenance director that is recommended. We're carrying one this year. We're recommending that it be funded again next year. It's a small increase in term for the level of responsibility the person has, and so it's in the budget, and hopefully it'll stay in the budget. In the area of contracted services, please note that the electricity and natural gas accounts are level funded at this year's rate, but please bear in mind, I said this last week, it's level funded at the year before, so it's 3 consecutive years in a row that oil and electricity or gas and electricity are level funded. This is a recommendation of the town administrator to the superintendent that we level fund those amounts based on the energy conservation program that is supposed to start in April. So I just hope that those numbers are sufficient to run the schools next year. If we have a spike in electricity or natural gas, you're gonna be woefully inadequately funded.
And
So
we have
the
a normal winter. I
We
mean,
need-
this
we need a
has
winter
been-
like this, yeah.
Everything's down 25%, according to what I've been hearing from my counterparts. Their utility usage is down about 25%. You should notice that at your homes too, I would imagine. If you have oil, it should be down significantly. I know I have natural
But
gas.
the cost
it's
of
way
a
down.
gallon of oil's gone up, you
Yeah,
know,
well,
but you're right, we're not using as much.
exactly.
So the level funding is the recommendation from the town based on the savings that will come in the new
Correct.
program that's.
Correct.
Correct. So again, it's
Oh,
It's a risk.
proposition.
Just,
Yeah,
I'm on the,
same.
I'm on the energy committee, and so just to be clear though, the savings that'll come from this
Pays the,
goes
Does-
to pay the debt,
pay the
doesn't
bond.
create a surplus. Because I know there was some confusion on that before, but,
Right.
we just talked about that in our last meeting, so.
and I think the question we had about that, Steve, because that certainly is understandable, obviously that's paying the note.
Right.
It's a little trickier in our budget because we sometimes have to make transfers, you know, we can't not pay the oil bill. So if we ended up having to expend more money than we have budgeted, is the town gonna give us the money to
No.
pay that, or is that still our responsibility to pay that expense?
I think that would be a question.
I think
we should
that's
talk to Mike. I mean, in essence, it would
He
be.
didn't have an
like-
answer when I asked him the question, so he said he was going to look into it.
Because it would be like in any normal year, what happens if it goes over, right? Because we're not really, they use a 5 to 10 year history, so it's not, this year is an anomaly, so it's not what's gonna be based on.
Right.
So, I think that'd be a good question, that we should just clarify it, but I suspect it'd be like, it's a new baseline that if it went over, it could, you know, for example, it could be a particularly cold winter, right? Which would be the case whether there was an energy plan or not in place, in which there would be more use. So I don't know what happens now if you have a particularly cold winter.
We have to transfer it from some other line in the budget to cover the expense. That's why I know it's different than the way the other town departments do it, but it's particularly something we need to know about, because that does happen, you know, often with, or
You've
some kind
already
of.
asked Mike for this
Well-
information?
Mike Farrell? Yes.
But wouldn't the assumption that if we're being asked based on the assumption of this new program going into effect and there's a savings there, isn't it implied that if we got jacked up, that if we're hanging our hat on this program being effective and we go past that and it's not effective, that we're connected and money comes in to help us pay for it?
Yes.
I mean, Mike did say to me, when I asked him that question, he did say that the company is required to, if the savings isn't realized, the company is required to make sure that they provide the money to make it work. That's how I understood the situation. I'm just worried about the.
Performance guarantee that if the,
Right.
there's all sorts of parameters in there, but if the savings aren't realized, it's their job to make up the difference.
Right, so I think for our
Aren't
purposes, it's
realized
just.
in an annual cycle, or?
Yes.
Okay.
His annual measurement and verification is going to be more often, and it's legislated by Massachusetts. All
Okay.
states, a lot of states do it, but Mass is really strict on it.
Okay.
Right.
Just a quick question, Jim.
Yep.
If you look at total salaries.
Yeah, here, there's a new page right here. I noticed it too.
Thank you.
The bottom line has not changed. I just recast the number. See, when you,
It's so funny
when you
you feel
take a
comfortable
38-page document for President
She's good with her
Wow.
calculator.
Can't get anything passed.
We just have to make sure Laura has
Oh,
the
yeah.
right one.
Bad.
New page swap.
I have issues.
Does that change the one behind it
It
too,
does
Jim?
not change anything.
Doesn't change 12A?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So throw away the old page 12 and use the new page 12.
Laura, can you make sure that the principals get the new page 12 for their documents?
That looks better.
So it looks
It
like
is
we'll
better.
be asking the parents to send in all those Kleenex and the paper towels and hand sanitizers and.
Well,
Well, he's level funded,
And
right?
sweaters,
And sweaters.
yeah.
in case it's cold.
Well, that is one thing we did talk about, is trying to do more energy saving measures, like, turning, getting switches that turn, the heat down automatically at a certain time. Those are all things that we can look at as well, and I'm sure with this new when things are changed out, that's probably gonna be part of them, is, some mechanism by which those things are,
They wouldn't switch it
No,
out without
no.
the automated thermostats.
yeah, which is great. We're looking forward to that.
Just a question, just the reasoning with the 10% increase on the director? Just the reasoning behind it? Just a
Survey
question.
that we did a survey of surrounding towns about
Salary
what they're paying their
comparison.
directors, and the request actually was higher than what's in the budget, and Carol and I met with the current person, we said we can't do that, so we came at this figure.
He isn't competitive, however, with other people in the region that are doing facilities coordinator jobs.
He is or is
He
not?
is not.
He is not.
This is not competitive.
He is lower.
This is lower.
He's one of the lowest.
I was gonna say, I remember seeing some numbers that he was pretty notably.
That doesn't
Oh, yeah.
surprise me.
So again, Rob, that's the reason for
Thank
the
you.
increase. Okay.
And the decline in maintenance staff, is that just because of like overtime?
Yeah, well, there was some, and Mike really can't explain how it got there, but the maintenance staff had $81,000 in there at one point, and we said, that's crazy. So we found out it didn't belong there,
Okay.
so we reallocated the monies.
Okay.
Okay?
And does this cover the override, the money that came in and we had said
equipment?
certain monies were gonna go?
Yeah, it maintains it maintains, obviously, we bought the equipment, so it maintains that, it maintains, the 1.5 custodial positions that we added with the override.
And that's consistent with the override?
That's consistent, yeah.
Good.
Rob, what you will see, and I know that Mike is going to ask Carol for this, the $11,000 that he's asking for in the equipment account, he is going to ask the committee to allow him to parlay that into a lease purchase, so he could get $33,000 worth of equipment and pay $11,000 year one, $11,000 year two, $11,000 year three. So he'll be approaching you on something like that.
Okay.
He wants to buy a lawnmower and a snow blower and things of that nature.
Makes sense.
I mean, we have not completed our complete conversations with the group on the shared town maintenance. There still are some logistical things that we're trying to work through. And of course, we did identify, in order for the schools to take over all of the responsibility for the town department, the town buildings and grounds, it would take the equivalent of between 1.5 and 2 people. We were asked to do a level services budget, so that would not fit in, that would be in addition. So it isn't included in the budget, but, it's still on the table for discussion. Not sure that the town funding the increases in the budgets that they're gonna be asked to, if they funded everything, whether or not they could, would be willing or able to add another position and a half. But based on a study and a survey and a complete inventory, that is what would be needed. There would be another person who would be required for the grounds to do, again, not only the grounds around the school, but the grounds around the town buildings, in coordination with Peter Durkee, obviously, and then a person to just do all the town buildings, just go around and do all of those. Right now, the town hall, for example, is only 2 days a week. This would give a better quality of service and a lot more, time for the buildings, but we would have to get everybody on board as to what the cost. We don't believe it takes a $700,000 override. We do believe, however, it does take some small amount of manpower in order to, expand the scope to do the buildings and grounds in the town at the level that the
So-
public would expect to see.
So this is, it's still on the table, they're still, okay.
So, through the chair, if the budget review is done, we are at 13,202,336, which is an increase of 3.5%. And if that's a number this committee would like to go with, next time we meet, we'll have a public hearing. And the public hearing will consist of 3 votes that I'll ask you to take: total salaries, total non-salaries, total budget. The total budget figure that we would submit to the finance committee is 13,202,336. So if that's the will of the committee, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Before you do any numbers, I have a
Yeah, I was gonna
question.
say, yeah, that,
We'll go back.
yep.
Um,
So let me just back up one second. We've gone through all the departments, just so
Yes,
everyone
there's
knows.
no other departments. to
Now
be
we'll
in.
just start going back to talk about questions that have come up since our last meeting. Because we're kind of going through this pretty quickly.
And I don't mean to drop this on you,
Yeah.
but it was kind of proposed to me at the last minute, so. Our, the central office staff apparently have a ton of new regulations with grants that are being implemented. And can't really get to everything that they can. They feel like things are slipping. And I was wondering if there's any way that we could find somewhere, I mean, the administrative clerks, is that the two that are in the office?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
The
I'm
superintendent's office?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, so administrative clerks,
Does that include Laura?
yes,
Is it
that's
Julie?
Laura, Julie,
Julie and
and
Trish.
Tricia.
Mhm.
And I know that there's, I know what the budget looks like, but is there any way that we can get some kind of help in there, even if it's part-time?
Mhm.
Because with Jim in there only 2 days a week, and.
You're talking about for this year?
Well, yeah.
Well, next year we'll have a full-time business manager, will
We
that
will
make
have
a
full-time-
difference?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know what, if the,
Yeah,
what the
no one's
business
come to
manager's
me
going to
and
do
said this
with-
is an issue,
Yeah, no
so
one said to
I
me
guess
that,
we'd
yeah.
have to do a little more research on our end to see what would be required.
Well, and I don't know either. I don't know what the grant, I mean, I know it's a lot to do with grant regulations
Okay,
is an issue, and I don't know that a new director of finance and operations is gonna have anything to do with those anyway.
well, I think that part of what has maybe put a bit of a strain and struggle has been the federal money that has come in, whether it's through the stimulus package or whether it's through the ed jobs, which are all gone away now. When I look at if you look in the back at the grants, you'll be able to track the number of grants that we have.
Right.
And really, without ed jobs, because we're not poor or underperforming, we don't qualify for anything really other than the allocation grants. So I will look into it on our end, and, the other option is to maybe look at Joanne Howard, not Joanne Howard, Joanne Howard's the old one. Who am I thinking? Joanne Sherman. Sorry, Joanne Sherman. If there's
share
like
her?
does she have a day on, Friday or something where she could be allocated
Does she
to
work?
that?
Does she work a regular,
She works-
full-time work week?
Yeah, she's got 30, what is Joanne Sherman? I think she might be
32?
35 hours, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Again, we'd have to look at it. I wasn't aware it was a problem, so we'll take a look
We
at
should
it.
have a new SPED administrator who's going to cover a couple of these too.
That's correct. We'll have a full-time special education director, that's true. So I think
But I think
this
maybe
year,
the point is not overburdening,
yeah.
overburdening the existing staff that we have.
and
Yeah, I
they've had two
completely
people
understand.
in that office, not these same two people, but for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And our district is a little bit bigger than it used to be.
Yeah,
So I'm,
trust me, I
now
would
if
love
there's
more help in
anything
the
we can
central
do
office,
now,
but-
that would be great.
Okay, well, we'll put it on our
But I
list
just
of
wanted to-
things.
I just wanted
Yep.
to be out there that,
Okay.
and because I didn't know how much the new director of finance would be
Right.
would be working on these kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think that the Director of Finance and Operations job will be slightly different because we have Mike. A lot of what Terry and Jonathan had really been consumed with in the past was all the maintenance and so, yeah, I mean, when Jim comes into work, I mean, he handles a lot of things, but he pretty much can concentrate on the finance.
That's
Right? Whereas he couldn't possibly, handle all of it in the time he's got. So I'm thinking the Mike piece, does help a little bit. But I will definitely look into that and see.
Now,
For now, yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Rob?
Same camp superintendents. where are the numbers that are in addition, if there are any, in addition to the 162 that would have to do with like whatever the benefits or the perks or
Did
the
I tell you? I
retirement?
sent you an email with that, didn't I?
Did you?
Yeah.
All right.
District-wide,
Okay. All right.
the,
Then
right under contracted services.
Right.
Its own tab.
It's on tab.
Contracted
Tax
services.
shelter.
Yeah, contract services.
Tax shelter.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But there probably is still a large number of people in the public that believe that we're paying for housing, which hasn't
No,
been the
absolutely
case.
not.
Well, thank.
Been,
I'm-
what, 5 years?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm glad
Right,
you
I've
just
been here
said
5.
Yeah,
That
no,
was for
for-
first 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was 2 years. So we haven't been doing it for 3 years.
No, absolutely.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I. in
And
the-
then for the people that thought that Terry had a secretary, that's been gone for, I'm going to say about 20 years.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Terry had a personal secretary.
Terry.
He did.
Wigan?
Yeah.
Right,
You know, one of the things that would be very interesting to do, I've thought about this for a while now, and that is, you know, what some places do is they'll hire a grant writer, but the way the grant writer is paid is based on the grants they bring in. So there's no outlay to the district, but that's another way. You know, we talked about, you know, we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. That's, you know, another thing that I've always thought would be worth pursuing.
Salem has that.
And, you know, again, we could bring in some pretty good money, right? We don't qualify for state grants generally because of our fact that we're not poor and we're not underperforming.
And that's,
But there are foundations, there are other groups out there that, you know, are happy to give money to schools for certain ventures that they might want to take on. We just don't have anybody who has the time and maybe to some extent the expertise, because there's a language to writing grants. I used to write them in Greenfield, and we had, you know, $3 million worth of grants, but there is a language to doing it.
but no, you brought up a good point. We're not eligible for state grants because, or I shouldn't say all of them, but for
No.
certain state grants because they look at our like town income level and
They do. They look at your poverty level,
Oh, and
and they
your-
consider you if they consider you a high need district. In fact,
Okay.
we can apply for some grants, but we'd have to like partner maybe with Haverhill
Okay.
or another district that's considered
But
high
that's
need.
outside of our ability to control.
Correct.
They look at that independent. of-
We get very small. If you look at that grant section, we have very small grants for Title I, which is basically money that goes to support the instruction of low-income students that qualify. We have what they call NCLB grants, the title grants. But we don't get any ELL grants, obviously. You saw the ELL budget. We have 1 child or 2 children. So we have, you know, we don't qualify for any of those. But we get the special ed grant, we get the Title I grant, we get the educator quality grant every year. But those grants have,
Right.
they get cut a certain percentage every year.
Okay. Rob?
Ann tried to explain this to me on the phone, and I
What page you want, Rob?
I'm on the athletic section. Back
Oh,
to the
okay.
athletic section.
Let's go back to that.
And when I read this, when I look at it, it says F12 budget 10,000, and then it says F13 budget 42,000 for a change of 32 or an increase of 320. So when I look at this, it tells me that the athletic director, clerical custodian are new positions.
They're not new.
Can you help me understand
Yeah,
that?
what you're looking at is the way the budget in FY12 was cast by the prior business person. And probably, I don't know who the AD was back then, but these are the line items that were adopted in FY12 for a total of $67,500. And it was the athletic trainer, and you can see the contracted services of 36, you can see the supplies of 14, and you can see the equipment of 7.
Yeah.
If you look at the new athletic director's budget that you have a copy of,
Yeah.
and look at his lines that he's requesting that the position of AD be funded as a position, the clerical custodial be funded as a position, the athletic trainer be funded as a position, and these are the other line items that came in the athletic director's request to us that totaled $67,000. So all I did was recast it. So they're not new positions. They
But
were
you're saying
funded,
they were
funded in a different
from-
fashion.
They were
Put it
funded
somewhere
from the
else.
athletic revolving
Right.
account.
It was
So we
so
put
bad.
them in the
Yeah.
budget,
Yes.
and they took the buses out.
Yeah.
Right.
Put the 34,000 for these buses out of the budget into the athletic revolving.
That's all it
Got
is, it's
it.
just a
Just a
recasting of
transfer.
where the amounts are.
Because see, and we're still, the budget still has the same amount in it.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. And Rob, it makes sense to identify people who are working for you in a case like that, you know, the trainer, your athletic director.
Oh, yeah.
your clerical, rather than bury them into a revolving account. You never see them.
Oh, yeah. No,
People
I-
don't even
And
know
people
that
don't
that's
know
the
the
cost.
cost. People
People don't know
don't
that's
see
the
the true cost.
They don't know what the
Yeah,
cost of doing
exactly.
business really is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Remember, we said last time, $1.7 million is on grants and revolving accounts.
Mhm.
So it, you know, it's a 15 million plus operation, not a $13 million operation.
I just wanted to make sure it was clear
Yeah,
that,
they're
because
not-
anybody reads this, if they don't have this discussion, might look at it and not
Oh,
understand.
absolutely.
They would.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the big message here is the same amount is on the budget. We just shifted buckets.
Maybe we could even add a note down
I
at
can-
the
I can
bottom.
add
Let's add a
something right
note
here,
at the
yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when we
Oh,
give
good
it, yeah, we'll just add a note like Jim's got on some other pages.
Good idea.
Because that is a jump and people wouldn't understand that, why that is.
I have no further questions.
Are you sure?
Yep.
You got through your list? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, it's a lot to get. I mean, it's
a lot to
it's
digest.
a lot to go through. Barbie,
I'm good.
you good? Principals, do you have anything you want to?
Got some tissues.
Barbie's buying.
I guess, I mean, I agree with the number, you know, based on a build-up, but as Jim said, it's not, we don't have a spending problem. And I know there's going to be, you know, people at home saying, well, you know, we you know, did a $1.2 million override last year, and now we still need another, you know, 3.5%. But I think what we have to understand is that that 1.2 million we're incredibly grateful for, and it really helped us maintain where we are today. But that was also backfilling our federal grants that have gone away. And this year we're faced with ed jobs going away of 168,000 and an increase of special ed of over $200,000. And that's something we're contractually obligated to pay. What this budget doesn't have is things we talked about earlier tonight. It doesn't have new textbooks. It doesn't have
Enough maintenance.
enough maintenance.
Technology.
It doesn't have really a lot for technology. It has just to keep us going. It doesn't have desks and chairs that Peter was looking for originally. And we're not talking about, you know, refurnishing the high school. I think it was probably, you know, replacing or maybe making some changes. And this doesn't include any placeholders for special education. This is exactly what we know today going into the fall. So if anyone moves into the district or requires services, we will provide them and do what is right and appropriate. But
And it doesn't fund the sports program.
and it doesn't fund
Completely.
our sports program by $38,000, and we've increased the tax on parents by $13,500 or $25 per athlete. So I think that kind of sums it up.
I think you summed it up very well.
Thanks. We still have the family cap.
What is that?
$1,500. So, and that's something in budget and finance, when I was talking earlier about looking at it, that's something that we can look at after, you know, and Peter hopefully will consider that with Chris DeFranco as well. Family cap.
I wonder how
Consider
many
whether we
utilize that.
should have one.
Well, just, you know, throw that out as, you know, things to look at. Everything's on the table to
Right.
look at. I don't want to say anything sacred at this point.
Do you remember how many people hit the family cap? I think it was like 27 people, I thought, when we
Really?
looked at
That's
it
a lot.
last year.
I thought it was 30, so that
Yes,
27
in
is
that,
about
in that,
right.
right.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big number,
It is.
actually, for people that would have.
But
many
also,
kids
that was
being-
when we had, when fees were higher. And you would hit it a little
You hit it
quicker.
Correct, you won't hit it
Yeah,
as
because it was
quickly now.
450 and
That's right.
370, so you could hit it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think Dave hit it right away with just football, 1 year. So,
Yeah, because he would have
yeah,
had three
because
kids
he would. I
playing.
think he had 3 playing at one point,
Mm.
or was pretty close to hitting it.
That's crazy.
Are there any further questions or points that people want to discuss or bring up?
I think someone needs to tell a joke.
So, on Monday, remember we're gonna have a little pickle here because of the, we have the public hearing at 6:30, but we only have this room until 7.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, it doesn't sound like the vote's gonna take very long. But we did invite, the gentleman from Smith and Wessel. So, I'm just.
Smith and Wesson.
Wessel.
Smith and Wessel.
It is.
Yeah, okay, there's the joke.
That's not who we're inviting.
We're inviting Smith and Wesson to the public hearing.
Good one.
That was not the message. The
not
public
the
hearing's gonna be at 6:30.
Correct.
And then we posted our.
Regular meeting for 7, so.
So, no, for 6:45.
Oh, we did, okay.
If there is a huge,
Which there will be.
huge outcry and people coming to the meeting, then we'll have to move our regular meeting perhaps downstairs.
Can you
Is this on
repeat
the
that,
27th?
please?
What?
Can you repeat that, please? 6:45 was new to me.
We have our public hearing at 6:30 on Monday, the 27th.
Right.
And it's in this room and it's televised.
Right.
Typically, that takes about 3 minutes because we don't have anyone attending. Or if we do have people attending, it's about 3 people. If it takes longer, then we have until 7 o'clock.
Okay.
If it ends in 3 minutes, then we are going to have the consultant from Smith and Wessel come at 6:45
Oh, okay. I
and
gotcha.
talk to us about his findings.
Mm-hmm. Should be fine.
So anyone that wants to attend, look on the look on the school district website, and you'll have details about where and when.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
So what we will be having the public hearing and then adopting the budget. So if things come up between now and the 27th, feel free to forward them along so we can address them if you're not going to be at the meeting.
One more thing, Ann, do I have the committee's permission to forward the budget books following tonight's conversation to the Finance and Advisory Board? Because it really would be kind of unfair to have a meeting on the 27th on Monday and then give them this book and expect them to be prepared for a discussion on the 29th.
Can you forward something that has all of Jim's extra notes?
Well, we won't
Yeah.
send it until we make whatever changes we need to make to their books, but I just think that's,
Can we
more
give that to
fair.
them next Tuesday? I'll be in next week. Are you off next week? I'm not.
Well, no, I'm working middle of the week, so.
Okay, all right.
So
I think they'll be fine if we give it to them on Tuesday, but I think I'd like to give it to them with some notice and they already understand, Andy already understands that if there were any changes that were gonna be made or are made on this
When's the
27th.
presentation to them?
the 29th.
Yeah, which is a Wednesday.
That would be brought to their attention on the 29th, but I don't expect dramatic changes that, come up on Monday night.
Right. So we would send it to them in draft saying it hasn't been, we haven't had our public hearing, it hasn't been approved. This is what we've discussed for
Yeah.
the last,
Would you all be all right with that?
any issues?
It'll
No,
have this-
I think
that's good.
superintendent's budget.
It'll say
Proposed
superintendent's.
superintendent's
Yeah, that's what
budget.
no, it's gonna, it'll be this, superintendent's recommended, it's not gonna
Yeah.
be the final budget.
Right. All right, we do need to have a brief executive session, tonight. So the chair will, and we won't be returning to regular session. So the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session, under section 21A, paragraph 3, for the purposes of collective bargaining, discussion, strategy discussion, and litigation. And it's roll call. Rob?
Yes.
Good night, thank you,
Ann?
Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yes.
Thank you. See you next week or next
All right.
time.
Talk to you soon, Jim,
Have a
thank
great
you.
vacation, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good vacation.
Thank you, guys.